Not too many years ago, there was a great emphasis on people who they said were seekers. My generation. All these men and women who were seeking for something more than they already had, seeking for meaning in life, seeking for something deep that is to give them a sense of purpose and a well-being. And there's a big movement of they begin to seek in the spiritual realm. And out of this seeking movement, a lot of churches spent an enormous amount of money doing demographics on what these seekers, who they were and what they were like and what they needed. And so they developed these individuals, or these memes, they called Seeker Sam and Seeker Sally. And they developed seeker services to minister to their seeking needs. And out of that movement grew the Willow Creek Church in South Barrington in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. And in fact, one sociologist, Wade Clark Roof, wrote a book, 294 pages, which I read. It's called A Generation of Seekers, The Spiritual Journeys of the Baby Boom Generation. And so if you have trouble sleeping at night, I'll be happy to loan you this book because it will put you down really fast. But all these people, they said, were seeking for God. But I wonder if perhaps we may have got it wrong. That maybe instead of us seeking for God, maybe it's more about God seeking for us. God, who is like in the Bible, the story of the woman who sweeps the house looking for a lost coin. God, who is like the shepherd who goes after his lost sheep. God, who's like the father who runs to his son. God seeking for us, looking for us, coming for us through his son Jesus, giving all he had to find us. And in your spiritual journey, were you seeking for God when you found him? Or was God seeking for you when he found you? Or are you both still seeking? When our children were little, and our grandchildren too, we used to play this kind of hide and seek game. And maybe some of you all played this with your children. I call it hide and seek. But we'd sit there, and when they were just infants, they'd sit on our laps, and we'd take their little arms and lift them up, and then they'd take their little hands and cover their little eyes. And then we'd say, "Where's Kevin?" Or "Where's Marissa?" Or "Where's Kirsten?" And they'd get all excited. And then they would pull their hands over and say, "Oh, there he is. There she is." And they would squeal with delight. And they would put their hands back over their eyes. "Where's Kevin?" Boo! There he is. Just laughter would fill the room. And I really think maybe in their little minds, they thought they were really hiding from us and we didn't know where they were until we opened their hands and they saw us. But you know, Carol and I knew where they were the entire time. They were right there. You know, I think that's maybe the way it is with God. He knows where we are at on our spiritual journeys. And he's just waiting for that moment, waiting for the moment in our lives to remove the hands from our eyes so that we can see him and he can see us, and we find him and he finds us, and we squeal with delight. The years around 30 A.D., Jesus is at the very beginning of his ministry and is putting together his team of disciples. When we discover that being found by Jesus leads to following Jesus. Now, if you feel like this, so let's say this together. Being found by Jesus leads to following Jesus. And we read this incredible passage. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." And Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Finding Philip, he said, "Follow me." You know, being found by Jesus always leads to following Jesus. Jesus did not say, "Hey, Philip, I found you," and that was it. Or "Hey, Philip, I know you're looking for me now. We found each other. You know, it's what a great, here I am." No, Jesus found Philip for a purpose, but Philip would only be able to discover his purpose as he followed Jesus. Now, I don't think Philip was looking for Jesus at all that day. I think bumping into Jesus that day was probably the farthest thing from Philip's mind. I think Philip was doing whatever he normally did on any kind of day, but then Jesus found Philip and he said to him, first words, without anything else, "Follow me." That's the same thing that happens when Jesus finds any of us. Jesus may have found you when you were looking for him. Jesus may have found you when you were not looking for him. Jesus may have found you when you were doing whatever you do on any given day. But when Jesus finds you, his call to you is to begin to follow him. To follow him with your mind. To follow him with your heart. To follow him with your soul. To follow him with your body. To follow him in your work. To follow him in your home. To follow him in your relationships. To follow him in your dating. To follow him as you grow old. To follow him in your marriage. To follow him in your school. Just like Philip, Jesus wants to find you for a purpose. There is something in this world that Jesus needs you to do. But the only way you can find it and discover it is as you follow Jesus. And being found by Jesus leads to that decision to follow Jesus. But then following Jesus naturally leads to finding others to follow Jesus too. Together, following Jesus leads to finding others to follow Jesus. Notice what happens. The very first thing, Philip found Nathanael. Jesus found Philip, and Philip begins following Jesus. And the way Philip follows Jesus is by finding Nathanael. It just seems that it naturally happened for him. Philip just knew intrinsically inside, he just knew that following Jesus meant that he was to find others to follow Jesus too. You know, there are all kinds of metrics we use in the Christian world to sort of discern if someone's following Jesus. Like, are they reading their Bible daily? Are they taking their quiet time? Do they worship regularly? Do they tithe? Are they serving others? Now, don't get me wrong. These things are important because these things make up our understanding of what it means to be obedient and to follow Jesus in our lives. But when Philip was found by Jesus, Philip did not go and just immediately start reading the Torah. Nor did he run to find a synagogue to worship in. Nor did he separate out his tithe or figure out ways to serve others. No, the first step of Philip following Jesus was the second step of finding others to follow Jesus too. And no one had to tell Philip. He just knew that's what he was supposed to do. And Philip did it with the same excitement of each new believer who's ever begun to follow Jesus. Philip understood that this is part of following Jesus. I wonder if maybe we should change our Jesus following metrics as we seek to follow him. maybe instead of asking, how often do you read your Bible, we need to ask, how many people have you found to follow Jesus? And maybe instead of asking, hey, did you spend your quiet time this week, we need to ask, how many people have you found to follow Jesus? And instead of maybe being so concerned about how often we go to church, we should ask, how many people have you found to follow Jesus? Because Jesus, he said his mission here on earth was that he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And if this is Jesus' priority, this is the reason that he came, so that we could have a relationship to God, maybe, just maybe, this is to be our calling too. Finding leads to following. Following leads to finding. Because Jesus is the one we've all been waiting for. With me. Jesus is the one we've all been waiting for. Hear his words. Philip found Nathanael and told him, we have found the one. Hear that. The one Moses wrote about in the law and about whom the prophets also wrote. Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Can you feel the excitement in Philip's words? We have found the one. We have found the one Moses wrote about. We have found the one the prophets also wrote. We have found the one, Jesus of Nazareth. We have found the one, Jesus, son of Joseph. We have found the one, the Messiah. And his excitement is unbelievable because Philip realizes he has found the one who actually came for him as well. You know, in this moment, Philip is like the man in one of Jesus' parables where he's in a field and he finds a great treasure. And in great excitement, he bears the treasure and with joy goes and gathers together his money and buys the field and has the treasure. And it was like also the man who's in the pearls, and he found a pearl of great price. And he sold everything he had just to buy that pearl and make it his. Or maybe Philip was like the woman who was such overwhelmingly good news that she can't help but tell others about it. And like a well-aimed water balloon, her good news burst all over the first person she sees. Jesus is the one Philip had been waiting for. The Israelites had been waiting for. The world has been waiting for. We have been waiting for. And Philip could not wait to tell the world about it. So he begins with one. And Philip begins with Nathanael and tells him, we have found the one. And notice how Nathanael responds. Verse 46, Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. Come and see, said Philip. Notice, when Nathanael pushes back, Philip doesn't argue with him. When Nathanael says, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip doesn't try to argue with him, doesn't try to reason with him, doesn't try to engage him in conversation. He simply says, come and see. Simply come and see. This is what we are to do as we invite people to follow Jesus. Just come and see. Come and see. And maybe even believe. Today is Decision Sunday. We set aside a time at the end of our service for decisions to be made. And I'm going to ask you if you just bow your heads and close your eyes to just allow God to do the spiritual work in your heart that he wants to do. To just come and see. And maybe in your life you've never thought about Jesus, entertain the idea of following Jesus. But maybe today you're, for the first time, considering that, the possibility of that. And maybe for you, you feel like you just want Jesus to remove the hands from your eyes so that you can find him and he can find you. I would invite you to come and take my hand. My mic will be off, and we'll just pray together. That as you come, Jesus would enable you to see him, be changed by him, and begin to follow him. Or maybe for you, you follow Jesus at a distance, far off, but you want to recommit, rededicate, lean back into Jesus, to come and see the purpose he has for you in your life, to come and experience the life he has for you, to come and begin to follow, to take that first step. If that's your heart, just take my hand and we can pray together. Allow God to do in your heart what he needs to do. As Brian plays, I'll just be standing here just a few moments. Time of decision in your spiritual journey to begin to follow Jesus. Dear God, increase the passion of my heart for others. Increase my love for others. Increase my love for my neighbors. And dear God, increase our love for this world. To see ourselves as your agents, inviting people to just come and see. And maybe believe. Finding and following, following and finding, because you're the one we've all been waiting for. Guide us, Lord, guide us. In your name we pray.